Joining us tonight is Harmeet Dillon, managing partner at the Dillon Law Group, Republican National Committee woman for the great state of California. Harmeet, great to have you here. Does that make your blood boil to know that the chairman of the Intel Committee just hired that partisan activist?
On a political level, Lou, it doesn't surprise me at all. It's par for the course, and Schiff has been talking like this ever since day one.
Oh, he's got all the evidence.
Came into office
for 2 years, he said.
Absolutely, but from a legal point of view, I think this is particularly outrageous. It's outrageous for a lawyer to go out there and make this kind of slanderous remark that he does every day on MSNBC, and then on top of that, really sort of, if he is being hired as an investigator, to be announcing the conclusions before the investigation begins is also outrageous and really undermines his client's job, which is Adam Schiff and his committee. So I think Schiff has lost credibility from the beginning for his investigation. I mean, talking about.
Well, I don't think he had any. To be honest, he had none to begin with.
Even on the left, though, I mean, I think that prosecutors and lawyers will look at this and say, "How do you go out and announce your conclusions on television before you begin the investigation?" It's really not done.
Well, and he is no more compromised in any way than, say, Devin Nunes when he was chair of the very same committee. As a matter of fact,
that's right.
They are in precisely the same position. Yet Schiff demands that Nunes step down from the investigation, and meanwhile, Schiff is just ramping up. What kind of recourse do the Republicans have? And why are they sitting on their hands? And why are they so mute and impotent?
Well, I think Devin has actually done a good job within the bounds of his obligations. For example, he's refused to talk about some national security issues.
No, I'm talking about the other Republicans. Nunes is one of the heroes of the piece.
He is one of the heroes.
I am talking about why no one, including Nunes, is demanding that this guy step down. I mean demanding.
Well, I think step one for the Republicans is to resist, which is what they're doing. But I agree with you that many members in Congress could and should be a lot more vocal in protecting their turf and in protecting our president.
You know, at some point, the Republicans have got to be something more than a bunch of very careful, studied folks, in their very Sunday go-to-meeting duds, being restrained and so logical and so passive. At some point, they've got to be human beings who really give a damn about what's going on and act like it. These people look like they're going to fold up and, walk out the door. And perhaps they should.
No, well, perhaps some of them should. I can't agree with you more, but I think that that we have seen the talk of a bunch of subpoenas and requests of people to come before Congress to testify, and they had the right to push back.
I'm sorry?
They have the right to push back, and a lot of them are going to, I hope, push back and decline to go along with this.
Well, we've pointed out 81 entities, individuals, with the demand letters going out from the House Judiciary Committee and Jerry Nadler, the chair. Why not just tell them to go away, that you just don't have time to mess, if you are the administration, the president? Because this is ugly, partisan nonsense, nothing more.
Well, Lou, as you know, people in Washington fall into the swamp category, and then those who are not from the swamp. And people in the swamp are going to want to play the game, and that's the reality of life. But then I think there are going to be quite a few people who just came to Washington to help this president, and those people are more likely to be the ones who are not going to play along with this. I mean, as you say, with 81 people, it's like they're sending a subpoena for everybody who had a burger at the canteen in the White House, and that's totally inappropriate fishing expedition.
So where do we go from here? You have a committee after committee, 6 of committees will be sending out the same nonsense. The administration, the effort is to bog the administration down, obviously, to obstruct. What should be the response?
I think there should be. I think a lot of the response should be no response, ignoring them, and going about the business of doing the people's business, which is what the president has been doing a great job of. It would be great if more entities like Fox News and others began to criticize what's going on there as an abuse of power, an abusive process. But I will say that these guys tend to step on themselves quite a bit. I mean, so far the hearings that this new Democratic Congress has had have really, I think, looked pretty bad for the Democrats. So in some ways, the more they're talking, the more people like Maxine Waters and Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler talk, the worse they look, which I think is good for us.
All right.
The fact is, at the moment, the leverage is on the side of the United States as the economic sanctions continue to take hold. There's no doubt over a protracted period of time that the time does work in favor of the proliferator, but I think our judgment right now is that time works in the favor of the president's position as North Korea sees the effect of these sanctions taking greater effect.
Well, that's National Security Advisor John Bolton explaining on Fox News Sunday the White House strategy in dealing with the negotiations with North Korea. His comments, of course, coming days after that high-stakes summit between the president and Kim Jong-un in Vietnam ended without a deal. Meantime, the president continues to face backlash for refusing to blame dictator Kim Jong-un for the death of Otto Warmbier, the 22-year-old college student from Ohio. Otto died after authorities say he was tortured and beaten while imprisoned in North Korea. Then he was sent back home in a coma to die. Joining us for more on this is Professor Sung-Yoon Lee. He's a Korean and East Studies specialist on North Korea, a professor at Tufts University in Boston, and we welcome him back. A professor, first on the deal. You're welcome. Is no deal better than a bad deal, or in your view, was the summit premature and just simply not sufficiently prepared?
The summit was premature, but it was the right thing to do for the president to walk away from it. And I think the North Koreans were taken aback. Kim Jong-un probably in his life has never been snubbed like this. He's treated as a demigod in his own country. And the North Koreans showed a little bit of panic when they held that late night impromptu press conference. And the foreign minister said that all that they had sought was sanctions relief for the sake of the people of North Korea, which is ironical, that were passed at the UN Security Council as of 2016. But that's like saying all I asked for was 99% of sanctions to be relieved, to be terminated, because before 2016, UN sanctions were very weak and defensive. But after, as of March 2016, they become quite meaningful, targeting North Korea's various industries like mineral exports, steel, textiles, coal, seafood, also blocking North Korea's access to financial services, banking services. So that was a bit disingenuous. And then his deputy said something that was an unwitting admission of lying all these years. Madam Choi said, this is the most comprehensive package that we've ever offered, historical, she said. But then in the past, in 2005, for instance, North Korea in writing said that it is committed to abandoning all nuclear weapons and existing programs. So North Koreans were in a state of disarray.
So being in a disarray, leaving that in the dust like that, do you think that plays to our benefit?
For now, but, and it's right, you know, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Bolton, is right in that the U.S. should approach this as the long game over several years of tough sanctions enforcement. And I think it was premature to hold the summit in the first place, which, shorn of leverage, financial pressure, it's very hard to compel North Korea to give up what it considers to be the one panacea that it can use to overturn all the gloomy indices of state inferiority vis-a-vis the richer South Korean state. But it was the right move, and the long game is that, like the Obama administration, for example, 5 years of tough sanctions enforcement against Iran, levying fines in the billions of dollars on major international banks that, in violation of U.S. sanctions laws, continue to do business with Iran. That kind of financial pressure sustained over time is necessary. So Mr. Bolton is right in that regard. However, North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, in the meantime, continue to grow in their lethality.
They are continuing. They're not giving up on that. Meanwhile, human rights was not really raised. But of course, we have the controversy over Otto Warmbier. I spent some time with his parents, Cindy and Fred, recently in my reporting. And let me give you their statement. This is what they issued last week. We have been respectful during the summit process. Now he must speak out. Kim and his evil regime are responsible for the death of our son Otto. Kim and his evil regime are responsible for unimaginable cruelty and inhumanity. No excuses or lavish praise can change that. You weighed in on the federal case, the federal lawsuit that they were successful against North Korea. What are the chances, in your view, that Kim did not know that an American was being held, that he was being tortured, that he was being beaten to the point where he was deaf and blind, sent home to die, and that Kim just didn't know anything about this? Do you think that's even really possible?
And that would be in early January 2016. Otto was detained on January 2nd. Just 4 days later, North Korea conducted the nation's fourth nuclear test, 2 days shy of Kim Jong-un's birthday, and then did another one in September. Having a U.S. hostage would have been very useful to the North Korean state in trying to deter a forceful, even diplomatic counter-offensive from the United States. So the chances are zero. I know the warm beers consider this kind of naysayers, saying Otto never should have gone there and stuff like that as just noise. But to hear that from the president, I would think was a source of disappointment. The federal case, the Wonbiers that they won, the bar said was very high. The plaintiffs, the Wonbiers, sought to establish that North Korea was guilty of hostage taking, torture, and extrajudicial killing. And the federal judge, the Chief Justice of the U.S. District Court for D.C., ruled favorably on all three accounts. So, that's a firm record that we have. And, it's all out there in public. Anyone who's interested, anyone commenting on the case in a fact-free kind of fashion can check it out, can read the documents.
In fact, Judge Barrow Hall said that he was barbarically tortured to extract a false confession, and then basically it was a show trial, all meant to maintain and continue North Korea's foreign policy objectives. We will not forget Otto Warmbier and what he represented for our country and our values. Professor Sung Yoon Lee of Tufts University, thank you.